Well, hello, shortcuts. In between recording my last video and recording this video, i.e. the classic rock list for this week, and this, which is the soundtrack and genre list, I went to see the Flaming Lips in concert. Just got back from the Horden Pavilion, and it was wonderful. They played Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots from start to finish, which was the highlight. It was magnificent, brilliant night. So if any of you were there, drop me a comment. This is the soundtrack, blues, jazz, funk, and reggae list. And I got some stuff in here that I'm really quite excited about, stuff I've never had before. So that's always exciting. Before I get into it, just a reminder, the inaugural Shortcuts sponsored record fair on the northern beaches of Sydney will take place on Sunday, March 16th at the Hotel Stay. Please come along. This is the list that will go out on the 5th of February, which is this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Sydney time, as always. If you would like to be on this price list, drop me a note, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Okay, so I'm going to start with some really killer soundtracks, and then I'm going to move into a bunch of other things before I'm going to get to some Shortcuts royalty right at the end. This is something I've been looking for a long time. When it's probably 2-3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I got a copy of this in a box from Shinjuku, and I immediately asked for another, and it's taken this long because I insisted that it had to have the poster. I am talking about the 1986 soundtrack to Labyrinth. Trevor Jones, David Bowie, one of my favourite childhood fantasy movies. The original soundtrack of the Jim Henson movie. Let me show you a couple of things that are in here. So of course you get the insert, the lyrics of the 5 songs that Bowie wrote specifically for this soundtrack. And by the way, all 5 are absolutely superb. Magic Dance, Within You, Sarah, Into the Labyrinth, I love them all. And this record got a repress, its first ever repress since the 80s in 2017. And I actually bought it and immediately regretted it because it was such a thin, shrill pressing. This Japanese one's infinitely better. And it has this beautiful poster. Not the first poster tonight, by the way, so be prepared. But this is David Bowie. The poster that's included in this pristine copy of the Labyrinth soundtrack. It's kind of cool that Bowie wanted to be involved in this. Obviously, he loved science fiction. You could tell from the roles he took in the 70s in The Man Who Fell to Earth, etc. But this is really cool, and all sorts of fun stories over the years of how Bowie re-recorded vocals and really took to this and loved it right from the start. Yeah, a very rare, hard to find soundtrack that I love very much. And so, yeah, hopefully someone out there loves it too. Now, there has been a roaring trade in Shortcuts for Star Wars soundtracks. I have found another. This is, in fact, I've got 2, which is awesome. One without the poster, one with. I'm just going to quickly show you all the poster as to why it's so great. This is just super cool. Here we go. Look at that. Full on Death Star stuff. This is the Japanese first press. As I said, one with the poster, one without. There'll probably be a $20 difference, to be honest, just because of what they've charged me. But they're both pristine. I just love John Williams' work on this record. I mean, I don't put on soundtracks very often. I do like Labyrinth, and there's a few, but I do love the Star Wars soundtracks. So commercially successful, alongside obviously classic movie, but those LPs, the Japanese pressing of those is superb. I love it. I think that you can definitely hear the influence of Gustav Holst's Planet Suite. You can hear where John Williams was going, but, it kind of redefined what a soundtrack could or should be. And what's great is there were more. And for the first time ever, I have the Japanese first press of Return of the Jedi. The same RSO company, same first press with Obi. I'm just going to show you the inside. And the back side, obviously Mark Hamill, everyone in place. Now, the one thing I would note about this record is it's a single LP, not a double. The main title, Into the Trap, Luke and Leia, Parade of the Ewoks, Han Solo Returns. It is just like laying out the plot. It's just so cool. I think John Williams again does great work, particularly Parade of the Ewoks and the Battle of Endor, one of the classic scenes. What I also think is really noticeable about these Star Wars soundtracks is that because they were recorded analog, stick to tape, there is a heft to the sound. It's very full, and I know it's obviously that's an orchestral kind of trait, but it's also just the quality of the mastering, everything about it, just absolutely amazing. I'm gonna have to go and check for misprints and stuff because there's a whole load of those first presses that had all sorts of weird and wonderful misprints, but I'll have all that sussed by Friday or by Wednesday. And it has this. So instead of a poster, I'm not quite sure what the best way to show this is. You've got this, so you can. These aren't exactly stills from the movie. They're more composite images of what's going on, including this, which is really, really nice. And again, in beautiful condition. I'm just being very careful with these because I want them to remain as pristine as they currently are. So, therein concludes the soundtrack section. Now we're going to go into some serious funk. I love Betty Davis. There's more Betty Davis music to come next week, so get excited about that. But this is the Japanese first press, complete with the inner, the story of Betty, and all the lyrics. What a band she pulled together! What a story! Obviously, the fact that you've got members of Sly and the Family Stone playing on this record gives you a hint of the sound. But remember that Miles Davis was watching his wife and partner make this music, and it clearly influenced him. Betty clearly influenced as well. His demeanor and his fashion, the leopard and the fur and the really kind of just incredible star quality that he exuded in the 70s. A lot of it was down to Betty. Look at her. She was absolutely gorgeous. And not only that, she was a forthright feminist. She owned herself and got in trouble for it. Now, the record that came after this, They Think I'm Different, I'm going to be talking about next week. But this got the ball rolling. It is so raw and funky, heavy bass, wah-wah guitar, her kind of squally vocals, everything about it. I don't know if the original is on. It's on the original Japanese is on the Epic label, but it's just beautiful sound quality again. These records were just so unloved on release, and that's why they're so hard to find, because there were so few of them ever sold. But now, she's more than a cult hero. She's just a hero, and this is the one that kicked it all off, the Japanese first press of Betty Davis's debut album. Never had that before. Doubt I'll have it again. Too hard to find. Now, alongside Betty in the 70s, you have James Brown. This is James Brown's Sex Machines. I'm just going to show you how this folds out. There he is. But on the interior, you'll see that it's like a book. It goes through everything on the record. This is 2LP, 1970. Raw, sweaty, electrifying performances. Now, what's interesting about this record is it's a mix of live and studio, but the whole record is mixed to sound like it's live, but it's not. A lot of that is piped in audience sounds. Many of these songs were studio recordings. A lot of them segue together. It is just like a non-stop party. When you've got, the opening track, which I'm going to make sure I get the name correct, because it's about 11 or 12 minutes. Get Up, I Feel Like Being a Sex Machine, 10 minutes, 51 seconds. Brother Rap, part 1 and 2, which is my favourite track on the album, that's 6 minutes. That's just side 1. You get all the way through Licking Stick, Spinning Wheel, It's a Man's World, Mother Popcorn. It's part of this incredible medley that takes up the last of the records, or side 4 in our language. This is, I'm trying to see if this is mono or stereo. This is the stereo version. Beautiful copy. Really, really fun. Bootsy Collins. Who else? Oh, Clyde Stubblefield on drums. And there are at least 3 drum breaks that have been sampled for many hip-hop tracks. But I think the most famous is probably the drum break on Sex Machine, which was been sampled by NWA and a whole bunch of others. But it's just super, super cool. All right. Now, I'm really excited to have got another copy of this. For those of you who've been around my house, you know I've been playing this non-stop. It is the Japanese first press of Rastaman Vibration, which I still maintain is Marley's greatest record. This is the full gatefold, but it includes the scrapbook. Now, the scrapbook is amazing. It's got photos and articles in English, a lot from the NME, Melody Maker, incredible articles describing the influence that Marley had at the time, reviews of his records, where he was stack ranked, what people thought of him. I think that the Wailers are at their absolute best. The sound quality on this pressing is stellar. It's one of my favourite reggae albums. It's one of the best sounding reggae albums. I cannot rave about it enough. I had 2 copies come. One has been set aside for someone who wanted it. This is fabulous. And, you know, a really good kind of cousin alongside this is the debut by the Specials, Jeffrey Dahmers and the others, laying roots down all the way to the Maytals in Jamaica in the 60s, including a cover of the classic Monkey Man by Toots and the Maytals. Not the only cover on here. Gangsters kind of got them up and running. A Message to You, Rudy. Just got the two-tone sound and the two-tone record label kind of up and running. Produced by Elvis Costello. Just a stone cold classic. If you haven't given it a listen, give it a listen. It's one of the best debuts in British musical history. It brings together, you know, the history of Coventry, the Commonwealth, the clash of black and white, two-tone. It's all there. It's absolutely essential listening. I love it. Absolutely love it. Banned by the BBC for multiple reasons. One of the funniest was the ban when they released Too Much Too Young, which had some lyrics that were a little bit too close to being about teenage pregnancy, and the BBC had a fit, which just is incredible. But what an album. Talking about an album, I've got two really lovely jazz records here. The first jazz record that I ever fell in love with, Moanin', Art Blakey. Thank you, Olga. I had coffee with Olga this morning. You introduced me to this album, and I love it to bits. Lee Morgan, Benny Golson, Bobby Timmons on piano, Jimmy Merritt on bass, and of course the incredible Art Blakey on drums. Now, I have raved in the past about Lee Morgan's intro, how he introduces himself as a 18 or 19-year-old trumpeter on the title track Moanin'. It's one of the most hair-raising moments in recorded music, but I am gonna call out the drum thunder, the miniature suite that opens side 2, which is an absolute showcase of Art Blakey himself, an absolute legend of music, and this record is incredible. I'm less familiar with this next record. I had to make a few notes on this one because of its newness to me, so I'm just trying to find them here. Where is it? Well, Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane. I think it was recorded in 1957, but didn't get a release till 1961. There they are. That session. The listening notes on the back side here by Ira Gittler are really entertaining, because clearly Ira, and I'm going to leave it up to you to make your own minds, but there's one person I think that Ira is a fan of and another that he or she isn't. I'll put it like that. Yeah, look, I mean, this is truly a positioning of two legends and two monsters of the style. This is the mono press on the Riverside label, if you can see that properly. I've only listened to the opening track, and it's very bluesy and very mellow. So hopefully someone fancies a bit of John Coltrane and Thelonious Monk. Now, before we get into a couple of classic kind of shortcuts royalty, I have a couple of really nice blues records. I think you all know by now how much I love Albert King. This is a kind of one of my favorites of his. This is one of his best sleeves. Look at that. Truckload of Lovin'. I'm Your Mate. Sensation, Communication Together. The closer, Nobody Wants a Loser, is blues royalty. I love it. Wah Watson on guitar alongside Albert on this one. This is on Utopia pressing. So this isn't Stax. So at this point, he was really influencing, kind of Eric Clapton and Cream and those guys. And this record is a little bit more kind of pure blues with some R&B than the more sweaty, horn-soaked Stax record. So it's a little bit different, a little bit smoother, which I really like. Well, I love Albert King. I think he's a legend. Now, this next blues record is a little bit different because often the blues records that I get are, the legends of the field. I am a big fan of Junior Parker, and Junior Parker is nowhere near as lauded as, the Kings and others. But the more I listen to his records, the more I actually prefer them. This is more soul blues than maybe some of the others. You get songs like Hard Luck Blues, I'd Rather Drink Muddy Water, which is quite a nice play on words, Stranger in My Own Heart, in My Own Hometown. And there's a couple of really slow kickoffs on side 2 that are really heartfelt. It's the production quality is sensational. It's on the United Artists label. Yeah, give Junior Parker an absolutely, give him a listen. He did a blues cover of the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Knows, which is one of my favorite cover versions. The listening notes on the back by Sonny Lister start with, "Here's an album that took more than 200 years in the making. It's from the heart of an American black man. The only kind of product that we export that's stamped made in the USA and can't be copied." Yeah, great record. Not very expensive. Cult. Love it. Now, this one again is a unique find. I have never seen this. This is the first press, Japanese, of the Jerry Mulligan Quintet reunion with Chet Baker on the Pacific Jazz label, manufactured by Victor Records in Japan. So you have Jerry Mulligan on baritone, sax, Chet Baker on trumpet, Henry Grimes on bass, and David Bailey on drums. This is 1958 on the World Pacific label. This is even got the original paper sleeve of this game. This is super hard to find, incredibly difficult, and these 50s collaborations between Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker are the literal definition of cool jazz. This is, whilst it's funny, when I was researching and reading about this record, there's plenty to suggest that Jerry Mulligan and Chet Baker didn't see eye to eye. And some of that may have been to do with the substances that were being abused at the time. But no matter about the personal animosity, the beauty of the music completely works. So there's a synergy there that cannot be denied. And so really, really lovely if you like that type of thing. Now, these next two are Shortcuts Royalty records, and lots of you have given me amazing feedback on that I grab when I see, because it means that other people can get to enjoy them. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot by the beautiful Mavis Staples and her sister and Pop Staples on guitar. And one of my favourite records of the 70s, Wild and Peaceful by Kool and the Gang. So this is the last of the records made by the Staple Singers that still have a foot in gospel before they went really commercial soul. But it's absolutely wonderful. Will the Circle Be Unbroken? On Cloudy Day. I love Uh, I love the story about Bob Dylan and Mavis Staples. Mavis Staples, he loved the Staple Sisters. He sought them out in the 60s, and according to Mavis Staples, Bob Dylan once proposed marriage to her, which I think would have been a beautiful thing. And Wild and Peaceful by Kool and the Gang, it's just, I think, probably and increasingly becoming one of the coolest records of the 70s. And thank you, Quentin Tarantino, for kind of inspiring that. I just want to remind people he's got a really, really nice booklet. And of course, it features Jungle Boogie, funky stuff. Oh, the 9-minute version of Wild and Peaceful that closes off the album is worth the price of entry alone. And I love the sleeve as well. So there we have soundtracks, funk, jazz, soul, blues. Always trying to find something interesting for you folks. Please like and comment. If there are any of these records that you know that you want to talk about, let me know. Some of the other subscribers might like to let you know your comments. The soundtrack stuff is awesome. Labyrinth, Return of the Jedi. A lot of new records here that I've never had before. So hopefully you find something interesting in the list. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Love as always. Bye.